Good evening, everyone. My name is Emma, and I am a British storyteller. Tonight, you are already within a floating village you have not visited before. This one feels quieter than the others. Not because there is no movement, but because everything here seems to hold itself more closely. The walkways are narrower, the buildings drawn in toward one another, leaving only thin stretches of dark water between them. Even the air feels different, heavier. It does not move freely across the space, but settles, as though it has nowhere else to go. When you stand still, it remains with you, unchanged, carrying only the faintest trace of scent. Something dark, something subtle. Ink. It is not strong enough to name at first, only present enough to notice when you pause. The boards beneath your feet respond softly as you begin to walk. Their movement is more contained here. Each step produces a muted sound, absorbed quickly by the surrounding structures. The usual sense of open space above water is reduced. Everything feels closer, quieter, held in place. There are lights, but they are lower than expected. Not hanging high, not spreading outward. Instead, they sit closer to the surfaces of the buildings, their glow confined to small areas, leaving the rest of the walkway in a softened dimness. You move through alternating spaces of light and shadow, never fully in either. Ahead, a workshop stands with its door slightly open. The light inside is different, darker. Not dim, but deeper, as though it passes through something before reaching the doorway. It does not spill outward. It remains mostly within, touching only the immediate edges of the entrance. You move toward it without hurry. The walkway narrows further as you approach. The rail along one side sits lower than usual, its surface smooth and worn. Beyond it, the water is barely visible, a still darkness that holds no reflection. Near the entrance, a row of small glass bottles rests along a shelf fixed to the outer wall. They are evenly spaced. Some appear empty. Others hold a dark liquid that catches the light only at its edges, revealing a faint, slow movement within. You pause beside them. One bottle is slightly warmer than the others when your fingers brush against it. Not heated, but holding a trace of the room inside, as though it has been handled recently. The scent is clearer here. Ink. Faintly metallic, deep. Not sharp, not unpleasant, but grounding in a way that settles your attention immediately. You step inside. The change is immediate. The air closes around you slightly, not restrictive, but contained. The openness of the walkway disappears, replaced by a still, enclosed calm. The room is long and narrow. A central bench runs through it, its surface darker than most, marked into the wood over time. Along the walls, shelves hold rows of glass bottles. Some are sealed, some remain open. Their contents vary slightly in tone, from deep black to softer shades that shift only when the light touches them at the right angle. At the far end of the bench, a low heat source sits beneath a small metal vessel. The liquid inside moves slowly, almost imperceptibly, disturbed only by the faint rise of warmth from below. The light in the room is steady, low, held close to the work surface rather than filling the space. You stand just inside the doorway for a moment. The outside has already faded. The walkway, the water, the open air, all of it has settled somewhere beyond your attention. Here, everything feels slower, heavier, as though time itself moves differently within these walls. You take one step further in, then another. The boards beneath your feet respond with the same soft, contained sound. The air remains still. The room holds its quiet. And without any need to rush, you begin to settle into the slower rhythm waiting here. You do not begin the work straight away. The room asks for a slower kind of attention. You remain near the center of the bench, letting your eyes adjust to the darker tones, allowing the details to emerge gradually rather than all at once. The surface in front of you is different from the last place you worked. Darker, smoother in some areas, more worn in others. There are no light traces here, no scattered dust or loose material. Instead, the marks that remain are absorbed into the wood itself. Faint stains, layered over time. Each one settled deep enough that it no longer sits on the surface, but within it. You place your hand against it. The wood feels cool. Not cold, but heavier somehow, as though it holds more than just its own weight. When your fingers move across it, there is less resistance than before. The surface worn to a smoother finish through repeated contact. Your hand pauses, then lifts. Along the wall, the shelves hold rows of glass, bottles of varying size, each one evenly spaced, each one still. You move closer. The nearest bottle stands open. Its contents are dark enough that they do not reflect light easily. Only at the very edge, where the surface meets the glass, does a faint line appear, revealing the thickness of the liquid within. You reach for it. The glass is cool against your fingers. The weight is immediate. heavier than expected. Not difficult to hold, but present in a way that requires your hand to adjust slightly as you lift it from the shelf. You tilt it just enough to see the surface shift. The movement is slow, delayed. The liquid does not respond immediately. It follows the motion of your hand a moment later, sliding gently against the inner surface, then settling again with a quiet stillness. You return the bottle to its place. It rests without sound. Beside it, a smaller vessel holds a different mixture. This one is slightly lighter in tone, though only just. The difference is subtle, visible only where the light touches it at a shallow angle. You lift it carefully. Again, the same weight, the same slow response as the liquid moves within. You do not need to examine it further. The motion alone is enough. On the bench near the heat source, a shallow dish holds a small amount of pigment. It is dry, fine, gathered into a low, uneven mound that holds its shape without spreading. When you bring your fingers close, you can see the smallest grains at the surface, shifting only when disturbed. You do not touch it yet. Instead, your attention moves to the vessel above the heat. The liquid inside remains still at first. Then, slowly, a faint movement appears. Not a bubble, not a ripple, just a slight shift, as though the warmth below is encouraging it to move without forcing it. The surface thickens and releases in small, nearly invisible changes. You stand there for a moment, watching. Nothing happens quickly. Nothing needs to. Beside the vessel, a wooden stirrer rests across the edge of the bench. Its surface is darker at one end, stained from repeated use. The handle remains lighter, worn smooth where it has been held many times. You pick it up. It is light, balanced. When you turn it slowly in your fingers, the darker end catches the light in a dull, uneven way, revealing the layers of material that have settled into it over time. You set it back down where it was. Not yet. There is no need to begin. The room holds its stillness. The glass remains unmoving on the shelves. The liquid continues its slow, quiet shift above the heat. The air does not change. It stays close, steady, carrying the faint scent of ink without drifting. You take a small step back. From here, everything feels contained. Nothing spreads. Nothing escapes. The work, when it begins, will remain here, within this space, moving only as much as it needs to. You rest your hands lightly against the edge of the bench. There is no signal, no moment that announces the start. Only the quiet sense that everything is ready, and that you can begin whenever you choose. You begin with the pigment. The shallow dish rests near the edge of the bench, its surface undisturbed since you first noticed it. The fine material holds its shape, gathered into a low mound that does not shift unless touched. You move closer. Your fingers hover for a moment above it, then lower slightly. Not enough to disturb it, only enough to feel the stillness of it up close. Dry, light, unmoving. Beside the dish, a small scoop has been left within reach. You take it in your hand. It is simple, shaped to hold only a small amount at a time. The surface is smooth, worn where it has been used repeatedly, its edge slightly softened from contact with the pigment. You press it gently into the mound. The pigment gives easily, separating without resistance. It gathers into the scoop in a soft, controlled way, holding together just enough to be carried without falling apart. You lift it slowly. The material remains still. Only a few grains shift at the edge, settling back into place without sound. You turn toward the vessel above the heat. The liquid within continues its slow, quiet movement, unchanged by your approach. Its surface appears smooth, though beneath it there is a subtle depth that becomes clearer as you look. You hold the scoop above it, pause, then tilt. The pigment falls. Not all at once. It releases in a soft, gradual line, thinning as it leaves the scoop, breaking apart just before it meets the surface below. When it touches the liquid, it does not disappear immediately. It rests there, dark on dark, a slightly different tone, suspended for a moment before beginning to sink. You wait. The movement is slow. The pigment draws downward in soft, spreading shapes, dissolving without any sharp boundary. It thickens the liquid where it passes, creating a deeper tone that settles gradually into the rest. You do not stir yet. There is no need to interrupt the motion. Instead, you return to the dish. Another scoop. The same movement. Press, lift, carry. This time, the release is even slower. You tilt the scoop just enough to let the pigment fall in a thinner line. It drifts downward in smaller fragments, each one spreading as it meets the surface, then fading into the depth below. Again, you wait. The liquid accepts it. Slowly, completely. There is no change in pace, no reaction, only the gradual deepening of the hole. You set the scoop down. Now, the stirrer. You take it in your hand once more, holding it near the center where the balance feels most natural. The darker end remains still for a moment above the surface, not touching, only waiting. Then, gently, you lower it. The contact is soft. The surface of the liquid parts without resistance, closing again around the wood as it enters. You do not move it immediately. You let it settle first. Then, slowly, you begin. A small motion, circular, controlled. The liquid responds with delay. At first, nothing seems to change. Then, gradually, the surface begins to follow. A slow rotation forming around the point where the stirrer moves. You continue. The circle widens. The darker pigment that had settled below is drawn upward, blending into the rest. The tone shifts slightly, becoming more even, more complete. The movement remains slow. There is no splashing, no sound beyond the faintest suggestion of resistance as the liquid moves around the wood. You pause, let it settle, then begin again. The same motion, the same pace. The mixture thickens almost imperceptibly as it combines, each pass of the stirrer drawing it closer together. Time softens here. There is no need to measure how long you continue. Only the motion. Only the gradual change that comes from repetition. When you lift the stirrer slightly, the liquid follows. Just a little, stretching before it releases and falls back into itself, smoothing over without a trace. You lower it again. Continue. Until, without any clear moment marking the shift, the mixture becomes uniform. The surface holds steady. The depth beneath no longer separates into layers. Everything moves as one. You slow the motion further, then stop. The stirrer remains in your hand, held just above the surface. Still. The liquid settles, and the room returns to its quiet. You set the stirrer down. The surface of the liquid remains still, holding its depth without movement now that the mixing has settled. The tone is even throughout, darker than before, but not heavy, balanced. Beside the vessel, a row of empty bottles waits. They are arranged evenly along the bench, each one identical in shape, their openings clean and ready. The glass is clear, but softened slightly by the low light, catching only faint reflections along the edges. You reach for the first one. It lifts easily, lighter than expected. When you place it beneath the vessel, it settles without sound, its base finding the wood of the bench and resting there without shifting. You take the handle of the vessel. It is warmer now, not hot, but carrying the heat from below in a way that transfers slowly into your hand. You adjust your grip once, then lift. The weight is steady, contained. You bring it forward, pause, then tilt. The liquid begins to move, slow at first. Then, as the angle increases, it gathers into a single line, thick and continuous, flowing downward into the opening of the bottle. There is no splash, no sudden movement, only a steady stream, guided by gravity, controlled by the angle of your hand. You watch it. The level rises slowly inside the glass, the dark tone becoming more visible as it fills. At the edges, where the light touches it, there is a faint transparency, a subtle variation that reveals the depth within. You adjust the angle slightly. The flow narrows, then steadies again. When the bottle reaches its fill, you return the vessel upright. The stream breaks cleanly. The surface inside the bottle settles at once, smoothing without ripple. You lower the vessel back to its place. The warmth remains in your hand for a moment after you release it. You set the filled bottle aside, not far, just enough to make space for the next. The second bottle is the same. Lift, place, align. You take the vessel again. Tilt, pour. The motion repeats without change. The stream forms. The bottle fills. The liquid settles. Each time the same. There is no need to adjust beyond what your hands already know. The weight guides you. The movement remains consistent. You continue, bottle after bottle. The rhythm builds quietly. Lift, place, tilt, pour. Pause, return, set aside. Again. The line of filled bottles begins to form along the bench. Each one holds the same depth, the same still surface, the same quiet presence within the glass. Together, they create a pattern, not exact, but close enough that the difference between them does not matter. Your hands move without thought now. The sequence carries itself. The vessel grows lighter with each pour, though the change is gradual enough that you only notice it when you pause. You do not pause often, only long enough to allow the last drop to settle before beginning again. At times, A thinner line of liquid trails behind as you return the vessel upright. It breaks without falling, draws back into itself, leaves no mark. You continue. The room remains unchanged. The shelves hold their stillness. The air remains heavy and unmoving. The faint presence beneath the structure continues, distant, unnoticed, unless you choose to feel it. All of your attention remains here. Glass, liquid, movement. The final bottle is placed beneath the vessel. You lift, tilt, pour. The last of the mixture moves more slowly now. The stream narrows, thickens slightly, then settles into the bottle, rising at the same steady pace as before. When it reaches the top, you return the vessel upright once more. This time, nothing follows. The liquid inside has been used completely. You lower the vessel back to the heat. It rests there, empty, still. Your hands release it. The line of bottles sits complete before you, each one filled, each one quiet. The movement stops, but the rhythm remains. You do not move immediately. The line of filled bottles rests before you, each one holding the same still depth, the same quiet surface that reflects only the faintest edge of light. For a moment, you simply look. Not to check, not to measure, only to see them as they are. Your hand reaches for the first stopper. They sit in a small tray near the edge of the bench, each one shaped to fit the neck of the bottles precisely. The material is firm, slightly textured, designed to hold without slipping once set in place. You lift one. It is light, simple. You bring it to the first bottle, pause, then press. The movement is steady. The stopper meets the opening, then settles into it with a soft, controlled resistance. You do not force it, only enough pressure to guide it into place until it holds on its own. You release it. The bottle remains still. The seal is complete. You move to the next. The same motion. Lift, place, press, release. Each one follows the last without variation. The stopper aligns. The pressure holds. The seal forms. The rhythm is quieter than before, but no less steady. You continue, bottle after bottle. The movement becomes softer with each repetition, requiring less attention, less adjustment. Your hands know the depth, the resistance, the exact point where the stopper rests fully in place. When you reach the final bottle, the motion does not change. Lift, place, press, release. Then stillness. The line is complete. You step back slightly. The bottles now hold more than the liquid within them. They hold the work, contained, finished. You return your hands to the bench. There is one more small task. A cloth rests nearby, folded once, its surface clean and dry. You lift it and move to the first bottle, running it lightly along the glass. The motion is slow, not to clean, only to smooth, to remove the faint trace of contact left by your hands. The glass responds immediately, the surface clearing into a softer, more even reflection. You move to the next, then the next. Each one receives the same motion, a light pass, a pause, then stillness again. The bottles settle into their final state, quiet, even, undisturbed. You return the cloth to its place. The bench is clear now. The empty vessel rests where it was set down. The tray of stoppers holds only a few remaining pieces. The shelves remain unchanged. Nothing has been added. Nothing has been taken away beyond what was needed. The room feels complete, not in a way that announces itself, but in a way that leaves nothing unfinished. The work has ended, and the quiet that follows feels deeper than before. There is nothing more that needs to be done. The bottles are sealed. The vessel is empty. The tools rest where they were set down, unchanged by the work that has passed through them. You remain by the bench for a moment, not moving, letting the stillness settle fully around you. The room feels heavier now, not in weight, but in quiet. The small sense of motion that existed before has gone, leaving behind a deeper calm that holds itself without effort. You reach once toward the bench, adjusting one bottle by the smallest amount. Not because it is out of place, only because the movement feels complete. Then your hand returns to your side. There are no more adjustments, no more small corrections waiting to be made. The work has ended exactly where it should. The light above the bench remains steady, low, close to the surface. You lift your hand and turn it down slightly. The change is subtle, but immediate. The edges of the room soften further. The glass loses its sharp reflections. The bottles become darker shapes, their contents no longer catching the light in the same way. The bench recedes. The shelves fall into quieter shadow. Nothing disappears, It simply becomes less defined. You step back. The doorway remains partially open behind you, but the light from outside no longer reaches as far into the room. It rests near the threshold, leaving the interior held in a more contained calm. The air remains still, unchanged. The faint scent of ink settles more deeply now, no longer drifting, no longer noticeable unless you focus on it directly. You do not focus on it. You let it remain where it is. From beneath the structure, far below, the slow presence continues. Not something you listen for, only something that exists, unchanging. You move toward the doorway. Each step is softer now, less deliberate. The boards respond in the same quiet way, but the sound fades more quickly, absorbed by the room before it can carry. At the threshold, you pause. The walkway outside is dim. The space between the buildings remains dark and still, holding no reflection, no movement that draws the eye. You do not step out. Instead, you reach to the door and ease it inward. Not closed, just enough. The opening narrows. The light shifts. The room becomes more enclosed, more contained. The outside fades. You return to the center of the space. The warmth is held more closely now. The stillness feels complete. You take one slow breath, then another. There is nothing left to follow, nothing left to do. Only the quiet and the steady sense that everything has come to rest. You move toward the far wall, where a low bench rests beneath a narrow shelf. A folded blanket lies there, its surface dark and soft, blending into the tones of the room until you lift it. The fabric opens slowly as you unfold it, falling into shape without resistance. Then you sit. The bench is firm, unmoving. It holds your weight easily, giving nothing back, asking nothing in return. When you draw the blanket around your shoulders, it settles into place with a quiet weight, enough to feel, not enough to press. From here, the room appears differently. The line of bottles remains along the bench, but they no longer draw your attention. Their shapes are softened now, their edges blending into the darker surface behind them. The glass no longer reflects clearly. It holds the light rather than returning it. The shelves are still. The vessel remains where it was set down. Everything is exactly as it should be. You lean back slightly. The wall behind you is cool, steady. It contrasts with the warmer air held within the room, creating a balance that settles your body without needing adjustment. Your hands rest beneath the blanket, still. They carry only the faint memory of movement, of weight, of the slow repetition that has already passed. That motion has left them now, replaced by a quiet warmth that remains in your fingers. Your breathing slows, not guided, not controlled. It finds its own pace. In, out. The air remains unchanged, heavy, contained. The faint scent of ink is still present, but softer now, settled into the space rather than moving through it. It no longer draws attention, it simply exists. Your eyes rest. The shapes of the room begin to soften further. The bench, the shelves, the bottles, all remain, but less defined. Their edges fade slightly, not into darkness, but into something quieter, something that no longer requires focus. There is no next step, no task waiting, no reason to move. The village beyond the walls continues somewhere outside, but it feels distant now, separated from the enclosed calm of this room. Here, everything has already come to rest. You shift slightly, settling more comfortably beneath the blanket. The movement is small, then stillness again. Your breathing remains slow, even, unchanged. The room does not move. The air does not change. The quiet deepens. And without any clear moment marking the shift, the sense of the space begins to soften at the edges of your awareness. Not gone, just further away, until all that remains is the calm you have settled into. And slowly, gently, you drift into sleep.